Welcome to the Altered Call podcast. Today we are starting a new series centered around beliefs. Do you understand the beliefs that you hold, and are you leveraging them in the best way to benefit from holding them? My name is Pillischafske. I believe in God, I believe in truth, and I believe that you are uniquely created to reflect God's glory in the world. We all claim to have beliefs. We claim to have strong beliefs. But what does that mean? Any belief has the potential to be strong or weak and impact our lives accordingly. For a belief to be strong, it must first be understood, based in truth, relied upon to be accurate, and survive regular testing by reality. I start each of my episodes with a series of belief statements. This allows for an expression of creativity during each intro, but it also allows me to place my beliefs beside each other such that you can hear and compare them. When you compare a stupid belief to something real, it draws attention to the gap and points to the absurdity of calling them the same thing. Each person holds nearly endless beliefs about the world and how it works. We slowly collect these beliefs over time, and together they determine how we interact with the world that surrounds us. The vast majority of the beliefs that you hold are situational, stupid, or irrelevant to the point that you can ignore them without suffering any consequences. But then there are the beliefs that shape you, your core beliefs. These beliefs are a problem. For those of you that don't know, most of the ideas in this podcast are topics that I am actively pursuing, not beliefs that I have locked down. As such, my perceptions of the topics shift over time as I start to dig deeper and generate a higher understanding of how the ideas connect. It was only recently that I tied together the two pieces that we have been dealing with to this point. So far, we've spent about half of our time discussing the discipleship path and the other half on listening to God. The realization that I've come to recently is that listening to God allows Him to point us towards beliefs that need to be strengthened, while the discipleship path serves as the functional foundation that we use to strengthen those beliefs over time. Logically, this has led us to the current series where I intend to do a deep dive into beliefs and how they shape our world. In the Battle Plan episode, I stated that the trigger itself isn't what we are trying to address, but that instead it is the belief that the trigger is putting pressure on. The problem with beliefs strong enough to shape you is that they are also strong enough to hurt you. A misunderstood belief, or one that defies reality, will cause pain each time that its inconsistencies make themselves known. And even a rightly held belief will cause pain if you defy it long enough. We live in a land of hypocrisy. People claim to hold strong and unwavering beliefs, while simultaneously undercutting those beliefs at every available opportunity with little or no reward for the betrayal. Part of this problem is bad people attempting to manipulate others, but I suspect that most of it stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what beliefs are and how they work. In today's episode, I want to explore what beliefs are and encourage you to look at some of your core beliefs in a new light to ensure that they are both stable enough to stand on and flexible enough to endure scrutiny from the world. Every belief has a cost. True beliefs require manifestation in the world, not just mental assent. Ideas cost you nothing because they can live safely in your own head or be passed around amongst friends for review. Likewise, opinions have no real impact on the world because they live in a land of theory and mental exploration. We like to confuse ideas and opinions for beliefs because we like to view our beliefs as pets that we can control and bring out at parties to perform tricks. In fact, I often label some of my favorite ideas as pets for this reason. They're fun to play with, but until they convert into a belief, they're just a harmless toy that I can engage with at my convenience. Not so with your beliefs. Those demand action. To begin with, a belief requires ownership. Often people will have what I call inherited beliefs. These can be either beliefs imposed on them by family or commonly accepted wisdom from the culture. Under this category, you will find axioms and platitudes, which are some of the most useless phrases in existence. It's not necessarily that they are wrong, but that people can be tempted to use these phrases without taking the time to test the belief for validity or integrate its wisdom into their life. Another representation of false belief stems from the modern world demanding that everyone have an opinion on everything. If you pair this with our unwillingness as a culture to ever admit that we don't know, then you end up with people attempting to present strong beliefs in a performative manner. Because these beliefs lack any conviction or logic, people will often default to how something makes them feel, or rely on other people to determine these beliefs for them. They will then violently defend said belief in an extended performance of loyalty to the cult that initiated the process. To be clear, feelings can often help you to understand your own beliefs, and the opinions of others that you trust can give you a solid baseline for building a strong belief. But to properly own a belief, you must wrestle with it first. In a perfect world, people would admit that they don't know what to believe, or more honestly, that they lack the capacity to care about certain issues. It sounds harsh, but there is no value in forming a belief centered around an issue that has no impact on your life. In practicality, beliefs are the roadmap that we use to navigate the world. If you were able to show me the details of your life and its trajectory over the last 5 or 10 years, I would be able to point out the beliefs that got you there. Not the beliefs that you claim to have, or the ideas or opinions that you held as you progressed through the world, but the core beliefs that have taken hold of your life. With skill, attention, and objectivity, you can choose a set of beliefs that you think are most likely to guide you into the future that you desire. This is an opportunity that has been gifted to humans to such a degree that we were both enabled and encouraged by God to reshape the world as we progress through it. This opportunity is denied, however, when we hold beliefs that we don't understand, or expect a belief to perform beyond its capacity. Let's talk about the limiters of belief. Your belief in something is double limited by your ability to properly understand the belief and the extent to which you practice the belief. Let's think about loving your spouse. You fully loved your wife on your wedding day, and yet now, hopefully, you love her more. This isn't because you consciously decided to increase your love, but instead you now have a fuller understanding of the sacrifices and blessings that coincide with that belief. Additionally, you have practiced your love for your wife by being a partner to her over the years and routinely engaging in acts of love and devotion centered around her. By strengthening both the understanding and practice of the belief, you now feel the weight of the belief more strongly in your life. Let's move on to spiritual beliefs. You claim that you believe in God. Great. What does that mean? God is infinite, so any understanding of Him definitionally can't be absolute. Instead, it is more accurate to say that you believe in your limited perception of God. This immediately exposes the problem that your perception of God is at best incomplete and at worst incorrect. If you mean that you believe that God exists somehow, somewhere beyond your understanding, that's great too. But what are you supposed to do about that? You don't get to simply believe that He exists and then do nothing about it. That's a thought, not a belief. So now you need to look towards the things that He said to do or the things that He encourages you to believe alongside His existence. Believing in God, by whatever definition, immediately displays a limit to your understanding and the necessity of that belief to morph into a system of beliefs, each creating new and compounding problems. Given this lack of understanding, it turns out that a fundamental belief that is held very strongly by many Christians is in fact the type of thing that should be held more loosely. You claim that you believe in truth. Great. By what metric? It is common for people to answer this question by stating some version of believing in science, but science doesn't point towards truth. It points towards understanding and describing. Let's use paper as an example. According to science, it is a highly flammable fibrous byproduct of plants that most often takes the form of an 8.5-inch by 11-inch white rectangle. While all of that is true, you could hardly call that a fair representation. A less objective truth of paper is that it is a fundamental part of human history, allowing us to transmit our most important stories and ideas across time and space, allowing for the collective growth of knowledge and wisdom and granting access to freedom of thought unheard of before its creation. Science may be able to observe that function over time, but it can't prescribe it. Just as science could give a thorough accounting of how someone saved $1 million, or even offer projections on how that money could grow over time, it is thoroughly incapable of offering advice on how that person should spend it. As such, the word truth, while commonly agreed upon, also has the problem of being subject to perception, and should therefore be held more loosely. My point is this: if you don't understand a belief, then you shouldn't expect too much from it. I don't think believing in God or truth are misguided, but holding them too tightly can lead to problems. But doesn't holding a belief more loosely undermine the belief itself? No, and I think that this is the concept that people tend to get wrong. The temptation is to think that the firmness of our beliefs make us who we are, when in fact our beliefs can only tell us who we are going to become. A loosely held belief doesn't create a hole in us so much as it offers flexibility in how we navigate our future. In general, I find that people curate their beliefs through legalism or apathy. A legalist approach holds a belief too strongly, demanding too much from it, while the apathetic approach holds the belief much too loosely, removing its explanatory power in the process. A well-founded belief must find a balance between being firm enough to be reliable and flexible enough to keep you out of trouble. Let's say that you're driving down the highway and you pass a car that is going slower than you. A few seconds later, you believe that you can safely merge back over. Holding this belief too tightly would make the belief absolute, such that there would be no need to question it. Checking your mirror before merging would become an act of doubt, a blasphemy in opposition to the truth of passing cars. In this example, given that this belief is largely true, you would successfully merge much of the time, but on occasion you would end in a car wreck that isn't explained by your worldview. If you hold the belief too lightly, you would constantly check your mirrors during the pass, denying the power of the belief to explain and predict reality. Holding this belief correctly would look more like assuming that the car is moving at a constant speed, but checking your mirror at the point that you take a risky action dependent upon that assumption. As such, you would quickly affirm the belief before changing lanes, assuming the whole time that it will hold true, but also accounting for misunderstanding or variance. This approach grants appropriate strength to the belief and allows you to avoid accidents with minimal effort. Once a belief is formed, it will be tested by reality. Beliefs that are fully or partially true will be affirmed by reality, while beliefs that are false will be punished by reality. The problem that this presents is the unreliable nature of our reality. A false belief might not be punished right away. A true belief might not be immediately affirmed, and this opens the door to interpretation by the holder of said belief. Someone holding a belief too tightly will always be able to claim that it is instead the world that is wrong, and they will generate excuses accordingly. We'll get into this more in another episode, but false beliefs always require a support structure around them to keep them from collapsing. Meanwhile, someone holding a belief too loosely may never know the amazing truth that they hold because they deny the positive results that the belief would generate if it was relied upon to a greater degree. Most Christians claim to believe in divine intervention in their lives, and I think that this shows the problem of interpretation. To some, divine intervention is nothing short of waters parted and people being raised from the dead, while for others, divine intervention is finding a close enough parking spot at the mall. It's hard to demonstrate that either of these perspectives is wrong, but where you fall in that spectrum will have a large impact on how active you view God in the world. This difference, even within the same held belief, will lead to a wide spectrum of results over time. I am not particularly shy about sharing my belief that God talks to me, but I know that most of the time when I share that belief, the person on the other side of the discussion believes very differently. I believe that hearing God's voice is a skill, and one that I have developed over time. My belief is not that He talks to me occasionally, but very regularly. Sometimes in big ways, sometimes in small ways, but His voice is a daily presence guiding my steps, and as best I can, I listen to Him. I don't find this to be the case for many of the people that claim to hold this same belief, and I think that comes down to holding the idea too tightly. If you only allow God to speak to you in certain approved ways or at certain approved times, then you will miss many of the interactions that He wants to have with you. Similarly, if you open yourself too much, you stand to believe that everything that happens is a message from God, and you will become very confused accordingly. In order for this belief to be strong, it needs to be constantly tested against reality and against God's nature, making the necessary adjustments as you go. By refusing the necessary refining, you deny the power of the belief in its truest form. This refinement process is a large part of what drives my current reality. In working with men, I've discovered that we use a lot of the same words to represent a wide variety of underlying beliefs. When we start to speak in religious language, the problem gets much worse. By using the same words to describe different beliefs, we lose the opportunity to refine each other in profitable ways. Now, I'm not advocating that we all believe the same things. Instead, I'm saying that we need to hold our beliefs more uniquely and be much more flexible in our understanding of language. We also need to be less threatened when our beliefs are challenged. The Christian religion has existed for 2,000 years and the Jewish religion for several thousand years before that. Any belief that is rightly founded in those truths has the power to endure scrutiny. Simultaneously, any false perception of those beliefs would benefit from the correction that scrutiny would provide. This is the incredible strength of gathering with and discussing ideas with fellow believers. By being forced to explain your beliefs and justify them in the presence of others, you are forced to wrestle with them in productive and useful ways. This does not ensure that your beliefs will be correct, but that they will slowly move in that direction over time. My beliefs are changed every time that I attend my men's group. They are often changed or clarified as I'm forced to write these episodes. By exposing my beliefs to the feedback of others, their weaknesses are exposed and their strengths are emphasized. False beliefs hate the light because it is a threat to their existence, but a false belief left unchecked could very well become a threat to your existence. I'm going to end this episode here, but I have a lot more to say about beliefs, and I'm excited to continue this series for the next couple of months. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Altered Call podcast. Before you go, I want to make you aware of our new YouTube page. There, I will post a weekly update where I discuss the most recent episode of the podcast in more detail and tease information that is coming in future episodes. Feel free to like and subscribe here, there, and everywhere if you find value exploring these ideas. You can reach me by email using alex@alteredcall.com, or you can visit the website for additional information.